Have you ever wondered why you can't smell your own perfume after a while, but others can? This intriguing question leads us into the fascinating world of sensation and perception. Sensation, you see, is the process of detecting stimuli: the fragrance of a rose, the warmth of a summer day, the taste of a ripe strawberry. Perception, on the other hand, is the interpretation of these stimuli. It's not just about detecting the rose's fragrance, but recognizing it as a rose. Now let's dive into a concept that plays a crucial role in our daily lives, often without us even realizing it. Sensory adaptation. This is the process whereby our sensory receptors become less responsive to constant stimuli over time. It's the reason you stop noticing the perfume you're wearing after a while, even though others still can. This is the magic of sensory adaptation, a process that allows us to adapt to constant stimuli. Let's dive deeper into sensory adaptation and its role in our everyday lives. Sensory adaptation is all around us, even if we're not always aware of it. It's the reason why, after a few minutes of wearing a watch or a pair of glasses, we stop noticing their weight on our skin. It's why, when we walk into a home filled with the scent of freshly baked bread, or a room with a new coat of paint, the smell seems to fade after a short while, even though it's still present. This process, fascinating as it is, plays a crucial role in our lives. Imagine if we remained constantly aware of the sensation of our clothing against our skin, or the hum of the refrigerator, or the smell of our own homes. It would be quite overwhelming, wouldn't it? Sensory adaptation shields us from this sensory overload by reducing our sensitivity to constant stimuli. But it's not just about comfort. Sensory adaptation also helps us focus on what's important. By tuning out the background noise, it allows us to concentrate on new or changing stimuli in our environment. It's the reason you can pick out a familiar voice in a noisy room or notice a subtle change in temperature. Consider the case of after images, a peculiar phenomenon where we continue to perceive an image even after the stimulus is removed. If you've ever stared at a bright light and then looked away, only to see a lingering image, you've experienced this firsthand. This is a form of sensory adaptation, where our eyes adjust to intense light and then take time to readjust to normal lighting conditions, leading to the perception of an after image. So, sensory adaptation not only keeps us comfortable but also helps us focus on the things that matter. It's a subtle yet powerful mechanism that quietly shapes our experiences, guiding our perceptions and interactions with the world around us. In the grand theatre of life, sensory adaptation might be a behind-the-scenes player, but it's undoubtedly one of the stars of the show. Sensory adaptation can drastically impact how we perceive the world around us. This fascinating concept is at play in many aspects of our daily lives. Imagine walking into a bakery. The aroma of fresh bread and pastries is overwhelming, but after a few minutes you start to notice it less and less. This is sensory adaptation at work. Your nose hasn't stopped detecting the smell. Instead, your brain has decided that the constant odor is not a threat, and thus, it's not necessary to pay attention to it. This allows us to focus on changes in our environment that could be crucial for our survival. Let's delve into another example, the phenomenon of after images. Ever stared at a brightly colored image for a while, and then looked at a blank wall, only to see the image again, but in complementary colors? What you're experiencing is an after image, an optical illusion that occurs when your eye's photoreceptors, primarily those known as cones, adapt to overstimulation and lose sensitivity. Brief exposure to a bright stimulus, particularly when the surrounding conditions are much darker than the stimulus, often results in a positive after image. This adaptation is not just limited to sight and smell. It occurs with all our senses. Ever noticed how when you jump into a cold pool, it feels freezing at first, but after a while it doesn't feel so cold? That's your body adapting to the temperature and helping you to perceive it as less cold than it actually is. Sensory adaptation plays a role in our perception of the world, and it's often so seamless that we don't even realize it's happening. It's a testament to the incredible abilities of our sensory systems and brains to filter out the unnecessary noise and focus on the changes in our environment that may need our attention. As we can see, sensory adaptation can significantly shape our perception of the world. It's an everyday marvel of our biology, constantly helping us navigate and make sense of our surroundings. Did you know that sensory adaptation can be manipulated or exploited? Indeed, it's a common strategy in the world of marketing. Ever wondered why after spending a few minutes in a coffee shop, you stop noticing the strong aroma of brewing coffee? That's sensory adaptation at work, and businesses know it too well. They frequently change the scents in their stores to keep the experience fresh and to constantly trigger your senses. On the therapeutic side, occupational therapists often use the principles of sensory adaptation to help individuals with sensory processing issues. For instance, a weighted blanket can initially feel heavy, But over time, the body adapts to the weight, leading to a sense of calm and reducing anxiety. In essence, whether it's to sell more products or to help manage sensory overload, sensory adaptation can be a powerful tool when understood and used correctly. It's fascinating how our minds can be gently guided to perceive the world in different ways. Understanding sensation and perception is crucial in navigating and interpreting our world. We've embarked on a fascinating journey today, exploring how we detect and interpret stimuli, and how sensory adaptation helps us filter out the noise in our environment. Isn't it intriguing how we become less aware of our clothes on our skin or the smell of our own home, thanks to sensory adaptation? We've also delved into how sensory adaptation can affect our perception, causing phenomena like after images or diminished detection of a familiar odor. And let's not forget the practical examples of how sensory adaptation can be manipulated in marketing strategies or sensory therapy techniques. Isn't it just amazing how our senses shape our perception of reality? We're eager to hear your thoughts, your questions, your experiences. So don't hesitate to join the conversation and contribute to this community of curious minds. Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of sensation and perception.